It's clear that there's this toxic mix of traits that Donald Trump has, which is he's a pathological liar. He is incompetent on so many fronts. And he's also deeply corrupt, which I think is now being manifesting itself in terms of the Gulf War. That's why you have these wholly incoherent, wholly inconsistent flailing about because, first of all, again, there was no real rationale for this war. Secondly, he's trying to figure out what his next move is, and he doesn't understand exactly how he's going to get himself out of this mess. And thirdly, the Iranians now seem to have a lot more influence and cards to play, especially in terms of the Strait of Hormuz and allowing shipping to get out or not. And so therefore, I think Donald Trump is trying to present a false narrative to the American public by saying, yes, the Iranians now seem more reasonable. They're trying to negotiate. But, you know, he's protected himself for so many years in this cocoon of disinformation. But the reality now is just penetrating and taking away that cocoon. And it's very clear.
Okay, yeah. I mean, when you say it like that, it doesn't exactly sound like a big win for President Trump. But hey, at least that's something we can all agree on, right? Right?
I think this is a big win for President Trump. I think Iran blinked. His truth post, the most recent one, says, subject to the opening of the Strait of Hormuz. If they don't open the strait, we'll be doing this again tomorrow. But if they do open the strait, big win for the president. As he said in his first post this morning, he wants the best for the people of Iran. He wants this 47-year reign of terror to be over. Looks like he won a big step today.
He knew he couldn't say big win a third time, lest it start to sound like a talking point. So I don't know if you caught that, but at the end he said President Trump has won a big step. And who among us hasn't won a big step? You know what I mean? Very compelling, sir. Your propaganda is showing. But which is it? Is this a big win for President Trump? Or is this the winning of a big step? Or is President Trump, hear me out, lying? Here's Chris Murphy.
I mean, listen, who knows what's going on? Donald Trump lies every single day. Clearly, he's not telling the truth. But if you accept even part of the Iranian statement, Donald Trump has agreed to give Iran control of the Strait of Hormuz. That is extraordinary. If you go deeper into the statement from the Iranian National Security Council, they claim that Trump has also agreed to Iran's right to enrichment, to suspend all sanctions against Iran, and to allow Iran to keep their missile program, their drone program, and their nuclear program. Now, who knows if any of that is true, but if at the very least this agreement gives Iran the right to control the strait, that is cataclysmic for the world. And it is just stunning that that's where we have gotten to, that Donald Trump took a military action that has apparently, at least for the time being, given Iran control over a critical waterway that they did not have control over before the war began. So it just doesn't sound like there's actually an agreement, because what Trump is saying is totally different than what the Iranians are saying. But if Iran has the strait permanently now, what an error, what a miscalculation this entire endeavor was.
Oh, you just don't get it, Chris. Okay, this is called the art of war. First, you start a war illegally, and then you embarrass yourself and your nation on the world stage, and then you give your enemy everything they asked for, and then you declare victory. It's like, read a book. You know, what are you naysayers going to say next? That Iran doubled the price of oil, made a bunch of money, and then decimated the economies of our allies in the Middle East? I mean, give me a break.
Those tactical successes do not mean strategic victory. And at the strategic level, Iran has doubled oil prices, so they're making more money off their oil. They have closed the Strait of Hormuz, which was open before we started this war. They have decimated the economies of our allies in the Middle East. They've forced Donald Trump to beg China and Iran itself for help reopening the strait, our biggest adversaries. They've actually succeeded in even removing the sanctions on their own oil. It's hard to believe that this has happened, Jake. But yes, Donald Trump released the sanctions on Iranian oil. So it's very hard to look at this and not say from a strategic level, Iran is winning, even if at a tactical level, we've had some victories in dismantling some of their military capabilities.
Okay, yeah, when you say it like that. Okay, and when you say it like how Chris Murphy said it, and when you say it like how the former director of the CIA said it, I guess this isn't looking too great for President Trump. But look on the bright side, at least nobody's complaining about how expensive literally everything is.
This is no April Fool's joke. This is a disaster. All these numbers are a disaster for President Trump. I mean, let's just talk about inflation. which is the name of the game. Okay, highest disapprovals on inflation about this time in a presidency. Whenever you have Joe Biden and Jimmy Carter on the board and you're matching them or slightly exceeding them when it comes to inflation, you know it's bad. Look at this. 72% in our latest CNN poll say they disapprove of the president on inflation. Joe Biden, in average of polls at this point in his presidency, 68%. And Jimmy Carter, whose presidency, just like Joe Biden's, was absolutely wrecked by inflation, was at 66% about at this point in his presidency back in 1978. Donald Trump, even worse than they are. So you see it here, and the one word is, or phrase I might say is, oh my goodness gracious, what a disaster.
And there you have it, folks. I am starting to wonder if putting a guy in charge of the military based solely on the fact that you liked how he looked on Fox News was maybe not the best idea. In fact, I'm even starting to wonder if cutting the IRS so that they can't go after billionaires and corporations and have to go after middle and working class was maybe a bad idea. I'm starting to also wonder if, I don't know, putting a regressive tax in place in the form of wide sweeping indiscriminate tariffs maybe wasn't that good of an idea. I'm starting to think that cutting foreign aid by 85%, which has by some estimates led to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people, many of whom were children, was also maybe not a good idea. I'm starting to wonder if maybe it wasn't a good idea to start an illegal war, do a bunch of coups or regime changes. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. You know what I mean? In fact, it seems like it's not so much a cocoon that Donald Trump is trying to break out of, as the former director of the CIA said, so much as it is his mortal coil. Because if you look at him, it's as though his body is crying out for death. It is as if his material form is just sort of giving up the ghost, and Donald Trump, as a true pathological narcissist, is just trying to take everyone else down and the planet with him. So I don't believe anymore in Trump derangement syndrome, at least not in any widespread sense. There might still be some isolated cases here and there, but I think what's actually Trump derangement syndrome, or rather what is truly deranged, is not being able to see just how incredibly insane this lunatic is becoming on a day-to-day basis. To turn a blind eye to that and to chalk it up to Trump derangement syndrome is what's called cognitive dissonance. And I think at this point, it's just kind of embarrassing, because no matter what he does, no matter how many times he changes his mind, he's also still going to be in the Epstein files. So that's fun. What a guy. Way to go, folks. We elected an absolute maniac, and it turns out that was a bad idea. I'll see you next time.
Hello, everybody. David Schuster here. Thanks for watching. If you found this reporting and commentary valuable, do us a favor and tap the like button. For more content like this, hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. That way, you'll be notified on your YouTube homepage when we drop a new video. If you are tired of corporate spin and want honest, people-focused news, click the join button below and be part of the fight for a better future. We wouldn't be here without your support. Stay informed. Stay engaged, and thanks again for joining us.